Hey guys, welcome back to WD18, the Watford fans channel. I'm here for another preview. This time the Golden Boys head to the south coast to face Brighton on Saturday afternoon in a 3 o'clock kickoff. As always with these previews, before we actually get into the preview, let's have a recap in regards to our last game, which was a disappointing 2-1 defeat at Wembley against Spurs. Goals courtesy of Son Heung-min and Fernando Llorente in the last 10 minutes handed Spurs all 3 points, this despite the Hornets leading at half-time through a Craig Cathcart goal. As I said, it was a disappointing game, and that's perhaps a measure of how far we've come as a football club, really, to be leaving Wembley, to be leaving a top-6 side and thinking we should have got more, is a real marker of how far we've come. Ultimately, though, I think if I'm being totally honest, we kind of got what we deserved. We didn't push for that second goal when we really should have done. We didn't create any other clear-cut chances in the game. And ultimately Spurs punished us, really. We sat back far too defensively in that second half, really, and we invited on the pressure. Spurs have got the quality players in, and in the end, the likes of Son Heung-min, Lucas Moura, Christian Eriksen, they played their part, really. And of course, their performances, them stepping up in the second half, us sitting back, led to Spurs getting all 3 points. Not much else really to say about that last game. We now look ahead, we now look forward, we move on to the game against Brighton on Saturday, and I think it's a chance for us to get 3 points. I think we do need to get the 3 points. It's a chance for us to maybe take advantage of Brighton's faltering form of recent, and we will get onto that in just a few minutes. Before we do, let's get some team news. Let's start off, of course, with Watford. Couple of potential injury scares, actually, for Watford. I noticed it on Wednesday night. Of course, Troy Deeney picked up a knock during the game. I could feel him. I think he was touching his ankle or his toe or whatever. He managed to shake that injury off, and the chances are he will be making the trip down to the south coast on Saturday. Same applies for Roberto Pereiro, and Javi Gracia confirmed this yesterday. He had a bit of a knock, but he lasted the full minutes at Detroit, and the two of them are expected to travel this weekend. However, good news, another bit of good news as well. Christian Kabasele is fit. Wasn't included, unfortunately. Didn't start, against Spurs. But Kiko Femenia, Sebastian Prodl and Abdoulaye Doucouré are all out, despite Doucouré potentially being back for the Brighton game. This game will come too soon for him. He needed a bit more time. I hope he's back for the Everton game. That's what I'm saying. I thought, actually, in the game on Wednesday night, I thought we really did miss Doucouré's presence in that midfield. A bit of a driving force, really, and someone that we ultimately missed. Someone who I think we will miss on Saturday against Brighton. I think Doucouré is someone that could easily win that midfield battle. I just think we've struggled maybe in the last couple of games. Clearly, he's filled in. He's done all right, but I think we really do miss Doucouré. And we're ashamed that he's not back, but hopefully gets himself fit for the big game next Saturday against, 2 Saturdays time, against Everton. Let us now move on and have a bit of a chat about a predicted lineup. Bit of a interesting one for me. I think the team will be relatively unchanged given the team news. I think in goal, Ben Foster. I think that's pretty much. He pretty much picks himself at the moment. Right back, for me, Daryl Janmaat. Kiko still not being fit. I would put Craig Cathcart and Christian Kabasele at centre-back. I think Kabasele should come in for Mariappa. Maps, I thought, did okay, but I think if Kabasele is fit, he should probably start. Although I think that is slightly debatable, really. I'm not sure there are many fans that are happy with both Kabasele and Mariappa, but it is what it is. We need to pick one of the two. And then our left back, of course, is Jose Holebas. Move on to the midfield. I can't see this really changing. I think it will be Etienne Capoue and Tom Cleverley. I would have made a shout, really, for Domingos Quina to start. I think he should have started against Spurs. I think he'll be involved in the bench. I think he'll definitely be on the bench because, of course, in case you haven't been following, the transfer deadline day news, Ben Wilmot has completed a move to Udinese on a season-long loan. So chances are, Quina will now be on the bench. Quina's now really got a big opportunity, especially as Javi sees Wilmot as a more central midfield player as opposed to centre-back. I know he can play both roles, and he has done so for Watford. But I think Quina now will look at that and think, all right, okay, well, he's out the picture. I now need to make an impact every time I'm called upon, really, I guess is the right way of saying that. So I think Cleverley will start, though, on Saturday, although there have been a couple of rumours as well, potentially Cleverley looking a little bit jaded as well towards the end of the game. Javi may decide to give him a rest, and if he does, well, that option is there then therefore available. Could we maybe see Chalobah coming into that midfield role? I know he was linked with a deadline day loan move to Aston Villa that didn't go through. Nothing really materialised from that. Could we maybe see Chalobah and Keane? I think it's a big opportunity now for the two of them, now that Wilmot's gone, and obviously that Doucouré is injured for the weekend. Which one of those two will step up? That's one to watch, I think, for the weekend. Moving on, though, to the rest of the team, I think we'll go, as I say, two and then two. On the right-hand side, I would start Gerard Deulofeu. Will Javi start Gerard Deulofeu on the right? Obviously not, because I think Javi sees Gerard as more of a striker. I don't see him as a striker personally. I didn't think he was that good against Spurs. Yeah, he looked lively, but his finishing was poor. His decision-making was poor as well. I'm not sure why we're still persisting with him up top, but I just think it's something that Javi wants to do. And in that case, I think on the right-hand side will be Ken Sema. Left-hand side is a bit of a tricky position for us because we have Roberto Pereira, but I thought he contributed nothing actually on Wednesday night. I think he was probably one of our worst players. Didn't really contribute anything. Apparently had a bit of a knock. Not that you'd be able to tell. He hasn't done very much in the last few games. Very, very disappointing, really, from him. The only problem with Pereira, though, is that he's in quite a nice position whereby there is no direct competition for his position out there. So he will carry on out there. Regardless, and then up top for me will probably be Troy and Gerard Deulofeu. Let us now have a chat about our opposition on Saturday, and they are Brighton and Hove Albion. Let's get into a little bit of form for them. Their last 5 games have not really been fantastic for them. They've only won 1 of the last 5 in all competitions, that being a 3-1 away win at Bournemouth in the third round of the FA Cup. Other games, they've lost 1-0 to Liverpool, lost 2-1 to United at Old Trafford, drew 0-0 in the FA Cup against West Brom. And of course, on Tuesday night, they were 2-0 up against Fulham, looking to be cruising to a very big 3 points for them. But in spectacular style, Fulham fought back and ended up winning the game 4-2, which was a huge shock, I'm sure, for Brighton and their supporters. But ultimately, that result is a very interesting one from my perspective, because I look at that and I think, all right, Brighton have clearly got some problems defensively. I'm not saying we haven't got problems defensively. I think we definitely do, but it's a side you can quite easily get at, and I think especially with that kind of capitulation in the middle of the week, it's something that Watford may well be looking to target, really. Goals may not necessarily be hard to come by on Saturday afternoon, I would say, for both sides. If we were to have a look at some of their team news, Alireza Jahanbakhsh and Bernardo have returned to training for Brighton and may well be involved on Saturday. However, Jose Izquierdo is out. He's been sidelined by injury. Very little team news as well for them. Is of course worth bearing in mind that Brighton have actually never lost a Premier League game in the month of February. They've won 2 and drawn 1. And also, actually, just heading into this game as well, an interesting point about Watford. This will be Javi Gracia's 39th Premier League game in charge of Watford. And that is more than any other manager for our club in the Premier League. So it's a fantastic achievement. And ultimately, look, coming into this game, I know I've spoken a little bit just there about Brighton, some of their big strengths. I'm sure a lot of you will know in the back of your minds. Glenn Murray, I think, is a huge threat for them. They whip the ball in. Murray, I'm sure, will be able to get in between our 2 centre-backs. A bit like Fernando Llorente did on Wednesday night. Head the ball in, give Brighton some sort of an advantage. He's definitely a poacher in there. Elsewhere, tricky other players in there as well. You've got Gross, you've got David Proper in there. You've got players that I think on their day can show their quality. Now, I remember being on the South Coast last season for the 1-0 defeat. Wasn't a great game, but Pascal Gross producing that 1 goal really, but we were poor for our part as well. But Brighton had the chance of crossing the ball in constantly. Glenn Murray didn't start that game. I think it was Tom Ahmed actually. But either way, Brighton have a threat. Their home record has been fantastic as well this season. They've done really well. And ultimately, guys, this is going to be a difficult game for us. A game that I said at the top we need to get 3 points from, given our last 2 games ended in defeat. Looking ahead as well to some of our other fixtures as well. Of course, Everton is the big one on Saturday week. But it is all about trying to beat Brighton, and I think we can do so. We can take advantage of their actually quite poor run of form at the moment. I think the key battle, though, for us is going to be how we handle that midfield. Now, I've talked about this before. Capu, cleverly for me, are a little bit limited in that midfield. I'd like to see Domingos Quina start. I'd like to see Domingos Quina get in and around that midfield. I also think it's a big game as well for our wingers as well. Whoever starts out on the right and on the left, I said Ken Sema and Roberto Pereira. Key that they maybe try and take advantage, and I think with Pereira he just hasn't done that really. I thought he was far too static against Spurs. Didn't really do enough for me. And he needs to be doing that a lot more. He needs to be getting down that wing, needs to be crossing the ball in, needs to be active, really. Because from my perspective, if Pereira's not smashing in a 25-yard, 30-yard thunderbolt, he's not doing anything. And that's a worry, really. But in regards to the game, it's about, I keep saying this, taking our chances. We didn't create anything against Spurs. We need to make sure that isn't the case. But the one thing I would say, though, about the Spurs game, I think it's something we can take moving forward, is that we were always in the game. Always in the game, not maybe necessarily looking to capitalise and to score a goal, but we were always in the game by the scoreline. But this is a game, and it's a weekend, this one, where we put everything else to the side. We need to focus on getting the 3 points. Build up that little bit of momentum going into the game, of course, against Everton. I'm going to leave that preview there. Thank you very much for watching. I will be on the South Coast tomorrow, as will Jacob and the rest of the lads. We will be doing fan cams after the game outside the Amex. So if you are around, pop over, come along and tell us how you saw the game. Don't forget to subscribe, and come on, you Golden Boys.